guys, welcome to the very first video of this series on our Embrace the Adventure channel. So in this series, it'll be called Travel and Crime, and I'm going to cover a true crime case that happened where we're being at the time. We are a nomadic family, so we're always going somewhere new, and I'm obsessed with true crime, and I just thought those two kind of went together pretty well. I haven't personally seen a channel that does that, so I thought it was kind of different, and I hope that you guys really enjoy it. I really do. I really hope that you enjoy it. So I actually tried to launch a series pretty similar to this back in November, but I was really unhappy with how it turned out, wasn't thrilled with it. So I just took everything down, and I wasn't planning on redoing any type of true crime series, but then it makes so much sense, you know, like it's so different, I think. So I'm going to call it Travel and Crime, and I'm gonna, again, just cover a true crime case that happened where we're RVing at the time. So right now we are staying in Grapevine, Texas, and I'm not sure when this will be uploaded, but right now we are in Grapevine. When I was looking for cases to cover, there are not many. It is such a quiet, really friendly place. It's a place where if we were going to settle down in an actual like brick and mortar home again, I would consider living there. But today we are going to be covering a really high profile murder that took place in 2016. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this. It's the tragic murder of Jackie Vandegriff. So I'm not sure how I haven't heard of this case. It kind of blew my mind as I was looking at the coverage on it, and 48 Hours did an episode on this murder. A ton of different news outlets covered this case, and somehow it slipped under my radar. I had never heard of it until I was searching for cases that happened in Grapevine where we are RVing at the time. I'm really excited to go through this case with you. If you haven't heard of it, stay tuned and buckle up because it is wild. If you have heard of it, still stay tuned and see if you get any new information out of this. If you wouldn't mind just taking a really quick second to like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And I am so excited for this first video in this series with you guys, so keep watching. So before we really get into it, I want to go over some of her background. So she was a 24-year-old college student attending Texas Women's University, and that was in Denton, Texas. She was majoring in health and wellness, and she had said that, you know, it was very important for her to be healthy and eat right. It was just something she was passionate about. And she was known to just be this light of a person. She was just bubbly and just lovable. And I had said earlier, you know, this case was featured in a 48 Hours episode, and her best friend was so emotional just talking about her and, you know, what a great person she was. Now, though this is the murder case of Jackie Vandegriff, the story really doesn't begin with her. It begins with Caitlyn Mathis. So let's get into it. Caitlyn Mathis was working at this restaurant, and one day this like hunky, just muscular, tatted guy walks in, and she was just attracted to him. She just, you know, he was her type. He was older. He's 29, she was 18, and they just hit it off. So Caitlyn Mathis and Charles Bryant, you know, hit it off, and they end up going on their first date to Grapevine Lake. So right now we're actually camping on Grapevine Lake. So it's so weird to actually stay, you know, where these cases happen, you know? It makes it just hit home that much more. So about a month into this relationship, Caitlyn Mathis had started to see some major red flags with Charles Bryant. She said that about a month in, she really realized how narcissistic and manipulative he was. He would say things like, "You're never going to find anyone better than me," kind of like super controlling and just locking her in, like, you know, you're mine and you're never going to find better kind of thing. Major red flag. And then 3 months into the relationship, she cut it off. She couldn't take it anymore. Very understandably so. So she broke up with him and she went off to college, and she was thinking in her head, you know, dodged a bullet there, you know, like this guy was no good. We're done. So moving on, next chapter kind of thing. But not so fast. So that university is also in Denton, Texas. So both her and who ended up being the victim, which is Jackie Vandegriff, were both going to different schools, but they're both in Denton, Texas. So a few days later, you know, after Caitlyn goes off to school, Charles Bryant shows up at her dorm, unannounced, uninvited. Just imagine how weird that would be, you know, like this guy who you thought you were done with, you know, you're 18, he's 29, you guys were just different, you know, and he wasn't a good guy. You saw these red flags, and then you just He shows up at your dorm. So Caitlyn was so shaken by this, she reported it to the campus police, which is totally understandable. So then after Caitlyn had reported this to campus police, Charles Bryant was banned from campus, you know, understandably so. But on September 6th, he came back again for the second time. So this time he's knocking at Caitlyn's door saying, I have something for you. I have something for you. And of course she's, you know, like hiding in there, you know, and she's not going to answer that door. That's terrifying. You know, she already had to call campus police once and then he's back again. That's so creepy. So Caitlyn calls the police again. And when she opened the door, you know, she waited a while after she didn't hear any more knocking. She opens the door and he had left flowers and a note there for her. So Charles ended up being arrested that day because remember, he was already banned from campus for coming unannounced and uninvited the first time and scaring her. So now it's been 2 times. He didn't stop there, you guys. He would actually go on to be arrested a total of 3 times in 14 days. So now let's jump on over to Jackie Vandegriff. So on September 13th of 2016, Jackie innocently walked into a bar and it was called the Fry Street Public House. Now, sorry, I gotta readjust myself. The weird thing about this is Caitlyn Mathis, remember Charles Bryant's ex, had talked about wanting to go to this bar. So it's just super creepy. He went there. It's like he almost just went there waiting for her, you know? But Caitlyn's not the one that walked in. It was Jackie. Now, Jackie Vandegriff actually walked into this bar to try and find a job. While she was there, she actually made conversation with Charles Bryant and the bartender. And it was just innocent conversation. Her friends had said that, you know, she would kind of spark up a conversation with anybody. It wasn't necessarily flirty or anything like that. Not that that would matter, but she was just really friendly. So she sparked up this conversation. You know, she's just looking for a job. She just walked in. So around 9 p.m., Jackie and Charles Bryant actually left to go to another bar. So they were actually seen. This is not a very comfy chair. Wait, what? Hang on. What's this lever? That's the wrong one. Don't mind me. Okay. So Jackie Vandegriff and Charles Bryant were seen on surveillance cameras at both bars. So that original one that Jackie had walked into inquiring about a job opportunity, and then the second bar that her and Charles Bryant had gone to at 9 p.m., that second bar. She was seen at both of those places on camera, and then also spotted at a convenience store after that. She was in Charles Bryant's car, and that's the last time she was ever seen alive. So then on September 14th, the police received a phone call saying that there was a body around a grassy park on Grapevine Lake. So this is where it gets pretty gruesome. So remember, Charles Bryant did not know Jackie Vandegriff. He didn't know who she was. She just walked into the bar inquiring about a job. They had never met or talked prior to that time. So here's the weird thing. Super weird. So Caitlyn Mathis, his ex, and the victim, Jackie Vandegriff, look eerily similar. And this has been stated by a lot of people. So it's almost like, you know, he's sitting in that bar and he's so hopeful that Caitlyn would, you know, show up on a whim because, and this is just me thinking out loud here, but it's like he knew that, you know, she had wanted to go there at some point, so maybe she'd walk in. He was just super desperate at this point. Maybe he was just going there, whatever. Here comes Jackie Vandegriff walking in, looking very similar to the ex he's been trying to get back all this time. He's mad because he's been arrested. You know, he's got all this anger and this rage just pent up. And then this girl comes in who looks very similar to that ex that he's so mad at but trying to get back. And it's like he just unleashed all the hatred and anger and whatever the heck else on this girl. And both girls were completely innocent in this. And it's like, it breaks my heart because, you know, this girl, you know, one girl's being stalked and terrorized, and then Jackie was ultimately murdered. So it's like this man just took out so much anger and rage on another innocent woman. You know, he couldn't just leave his ex alone. He was obsessed with her, couldn't get his hands on her, literally or figuratively, you know, have a relationship with her again. So, you know, this girl walks in who looks so much like her, and it's like he snapped. Usually too, you guys, when you see somebody stalking and obsessive like that and narcissistic and saying those red flag, you know, you'll never find anybody better than me, it's not going to end up well. So the fact that Jackie Vandegriff was a complete stranger, you know, her looking like Caitlyn Mathis aside, The way Charles Bryant murdered her is so gruesome. It's almost unbelievable. On September 14th, police did receive a call about a body at Grapevine Lake. And when police arrived, they found a charred body in a kiddie pool. And though there wasn't a lot that the police could use to identify this body because it was charred, they were able to use fingerprints ultimately, and that did identify the body as Jackie Vandegriff. And the police immediately had their suspect, and that's Charles Bryant. So Charles was actually identified as the main suspect because he had given a young woman his business card, and the police recognized him because they had dealt with him very shortly before Jackie's murder. So after this, you know, they had their suspect. They were now going to go find Charles Bryant and see what the heck happened. What is going on here? Charles was actually brought into the Grapevine police station, and at first he denied even knowing Jackie. And then of course it leads into, well, you know, I met her at the bar, and Ranger Holland was assigned to Charles Bryant. And here's the thing too, so this guy had interviewed a lot of like narcissistic killers before, so he knew what he was doing. He knew the right angle to take in conversation to really get Charles kind of talking. So then Ranger Holland is using these different conversation tactics to get Charles Bryant really talking, you know. And after saying, you know, I didn't know who Jackie Vandegriff was, then he met her at a bar, and then he says that they were having kinky sex and she wanted to be choked, and ultimately she died from that. And Ranger Holland was not buying it at all. So after all of this, Ranger Holland came up with a theory. So Ranger Holland confronts Charles Bryant and says, you know, I think you killed her because she looked like your ex. And of course it's him denying, but that was Ranger Holland's theory, and it's mine too. But then police are searching Charles Bryant's house. They find a military-style knife. They find Jackie's purse. They find a shovel that was bought at Walmart at 4 a.m. And it was not only bought at 4 a.m., but it was purchased on September 14th. And the icing on this cupcake, the kiddie pool that her body was found in, was missing from Charles' backyard. Then, you know, Charles is confronted with all this evidence, and you know, there's really not any room for denial here. But then he says, well, I must have done it, and then I just had to burn the evidence. So then, of course, Charles was arrested and charged with murder. So then, in April of 2018, the trial began, and Charles Bryant actually pleaded not guilty. And he was saying that, you know, she died during kinky sex in his car, but there was no evidence after the autopsy was complete that they ever had sex at all. Then also during this trial, Caitlyn was one of the star witnesses, and she did say that she was convinced that he did murder Jackie Vandegriff because of their eerie similarity of looking alike. And she did say when she looked out at him, he was smirking at her. I mean, this guy literally just murdered an innocent girl that did nothing wrong. You know, he'd stalked Caitlyn, then he murders Jackie, and then he's smirking at the murder trial at his ex. Is that not sick? I mean, it's so sick. It just bleh. And then here's a little more. So after the murder, okay, after the murder of this innocent girl, Charles Bryant uses Jackie Vandegriff's phone to add his ex, Caitlyn Mathis, on Facebook. You just murdered somebody. You just murdered somebody, and you're using their phone to still stalk your ex. It's crazy. Crazy. So at the end of the day, Charles Bryant was sentenced to life in prison, but with the possibility of parole after 30 years, which I think is bananas because this guy is crazy. It's not that there's no remorse. He's a murderer. He's a stalker. There's so many red flags. I don't think he ever needs to be out back in society. So here are my thoughts, you guys. I think this guy did it because Jackie Vandegriff looked just like the person he was trying so hard to stalk and get back with. And Caitlyn had said several times that she thinks that he wanted her dead. So it's almost like since he couldn't get his hands on her, literally or figuratively, he murdered the person who walked in the wrong place at the wrong time that just looked like her. I think he should have gotten life in prison without the possibility of parole. He's shown no remorse. There's no reason in my mind that he should ever be out again. So let me know your thoughts. I want to know what you think. Do you think that he killed her just because he was raging because she he couldn't get his hands on his ex and she looked like her. Is there anything more that you know about this case? You know, I've gathered all the different articles and I've watched all the documentaries I could find. So drop down below if you know anything else, because I am just in a rabbit hole with this case. Yeah, let me know your thoughts, because I'm so interested to hear them. This guy is, he's just, you can look at him. You know, like when you can look at those people and you just know they're crazy. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited to be starting this series. If you wouldn't mind just taking a minute and just liking and subscribing, drop down below other cases that you would like for me to cover. We travel all the time, so I'm sure I will be in that spot at some point. So thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.